Hey friends, this is Carrie and welcome back to ILikeReddit channel. Today we have a variety of stories out of some different subreddits. Let's begin. Our first story is by Safety Pin Era. My Last Hurrah. So last year I moved into an apartment with a couple. Originally it was supposed to be me and the guy, who I had been friends with for the past 8 years. He had his girlfriend move in without my approval. I shrugged it off. She seemed nice enough. Things started out fine. We got along well, but things started to quickly take a downward turn. The girl's depression became a dark looming cloud over everything, and she also had the flair for dramatics, so all of her problems became our problems too. They started ganging up on me, telling me I never did anything around the apartment and telling me I needed to start pulling my weight around the place, which was the complete opposite of the situation. I was in fact the only one keeping the place together. The only reason they noticed was because I stopped doing their chores. Soon the situation devolved even further to a full-on, in-the-face screaming match between me and the male roommate. I had enough. I packed up my cat and a week's worth of clothes and left them with my last words. Have fun sitting on the floor. As soon as I could get a moving truck, which was 2 days later, I arrived back at the apartment to collect my things, which was everything. I walked in on the girl sitting on my couch. I said, "Hey girlfriend, get off my couch. I'm moving my stuff today." She was gobsmacked. She tried to convince me that some of the furniture was hers, but I put her right back in her place with receipts. She ran off to her room crying as my dad and I moved all of the living room and spare room furniture into the moving truck. I've never felt so spiteful in my life. For the cherry on top, I took the Wi-Fi router with me, which I was the one paying for. They were left Wi-Fi-less, furniture-less, which meant they actually needed to spend time with each other. It took me 12 days to move all of my things out. Every time I went to pack, I would go searching for silverware and dishware, so I would go into their rooms to retrieve it no matter if it was dirty or clean. Now here's where it gets even more petty. Each time I went, I unplugged their TV before I left the room. Now the girlfriend gets frustrated and angered really easily, so I knew this was going to send her over the edge, and the boyfriend would have to deal with her. Man, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall to see those meltdowns. Anyway, I later found out that they broke up. He kicked her out, but couldn't afford the apartment, so he had moved out and in with his grandparents. For anyone who's wondering, I'm doing wonderfully since I left. Moral of the story, don't let people lower than you bring you down with them. But if they do, go lower to irritate them at their expense. Anyway, on to our next story. Our next story is by Yazdan. Don't announce your engagement at someone else's wedding, or this might happen to you. I originally posted this on r/pettyrevenge, but I think it belongs here. Last summer, I was at my cousin's wedding. His bride and her family had been close since before I was born, and the couple had known each other since they were toddlers, so it was a particularly exciting event for both sides of the family. However, after the ceremony was over and the party had just started, one of the bridesmaids decided to announce her own engagement. The attention was immediately taken away from the newlyweds and brought to the bridesmaid, who we'll call Sarah, and her equally smug fiancé. My cousin's wife, I'll call her Emma, didn't make a scene or utter a single negative word about Sarah. She looked like she was on the verge of tears, but she kept grinning and acting very happy for the other couple. This was unusual, as Emma was typically quite confrontational and spoke her mind no matter the consequences. Sarah later picked Emma to be her maid of honor at her own wedding, which took place last weekend. I wasn't there for it. My cousin sent me some of the best bits on Snapchat and explained the whole situation. This is where the fun begins. Emma's two much younger sisters were flower girls at Sarah's wedding. At the very last moment, Emma switched out the white petals in the basket to blue ones that she had secretly brought with her. She had her sisters not say anything about it or let the bride see them until they were scattered down the aisle. Sarah looked very confused upon seeing the blue petals, which didn't coordinate with her theme whatsoever. But of course, she didn't say anything about it at the moment. Sarah's other bridesmaids were also Emma's friends, and had also attended Emma's wedding and were in on Emma's scheme. At the reception, Emma's sisters and others bridesmaids were tight-lipped when Sarah began demanding to know why there were blue petals. The wedding planner ended up getting a lot of abuse for not checking the flower girl's basket before they walked down the aisle. Finally, it was time for speeches. The speeches took place in front of a massive screen displaying a loop of photos with Sarah and her husband, which had been compiled by Emma. Emma took the remote that controlled the presentation screen. At first, she showed some pre-approved humorous photos of Sarah with Emma and other friends to facilitate the couple's lighthearted jokes. Then, at the very end, Emma said to Sarah that she must be wondering why there were blue petals instead of the white ones originally planned. That was when Emma displayed the last slide from the presentation. Emma announced in front of everyone that she was 5 months pregnant and that she had discovered that the baby was a boy, hence the blue petals. The last slide, her ultrasound picture. There were shocked yells and gasps. Sarah had a fit, but those involved in the scheme cheered so loudly that I sincerely regret watching the Snapchat recording with headphones. Apparently, Sarah had been very nasty to her bridesmaids before, driving several of them away and forcing others to pay ridiculous amounts of money for dresses. Emma and my cousin were eventually thrown out of the party, but they were all smiles. Sarah's fuming mother went to confront her outside, and Emma retorted with, Gentle, I'm pregnant." I reckon Sarah doesn't speak to the majority of those bridesmaids anymore. Too long didn't read. Self-important bridesmaid announces her engagement at my cousin's wedding, stealing the spotlight from him and his bride. Said bridesmaid foolishly names my cousin's wife as her maid of honor and behaves like a complete bridezilla. Cousin's wife sabotages her wedding to announce her own pregnancy. I bet Sarah thought she was being cute and that she could walk all over Emma, and as repayment for allowing her to grandstand at Emma's wedding, she was going to repay her kindness by letting her be the maid of honor. She wouldn't do anything to her. Boy, was she wrong. Oh man, that was revenge hardcore style. Anyway, on to our next story. If you're enjoying my content so far, please put some heart emojis in the comment section below. Our next story is posted by DeadDrone999. Neighbor sued me after harassing my dog for months, lost horribly. 6 or 7 months ago, my neighbor got a drone. I don't mind people having hobbies, but for some reason, he insisted on flying it like the biggest jerk possible. He would hover in front of other houses and windows and try and race cars down the road. And worst of all, he had a habit of flying his drone in my fenced backyard, buzzing over my dog, diving low just over his head before circling around to do it again. My dog isn't small. He's a 70-pound Malamute, and the drone terrifies him. I was worried what would happen if it hit him. I asked the neighbor several times to please not fly in my yard and explained that it was scaring my dog. He basically told me to get lost and laughed in my face. When it still continued, I called the police. Unfortunately, there wasn't much they could do other than ask him to please not fly over my house/property. Finally, in late December, it happened. My dog got tired of his crap and managed to catch the drone right as it was diving towards him, and he shredded the drone. The thing was a jumbled mess of wires and plastic. The neighbor was pissed. He stormed over to my house, swearing and threatening me, which I ignored. A week later, I got a summons to small claims court. He wanted $900 for the cost of the drone and an additional $300 for supposedly denying him access to his property. The drone sat in my yard for a couple of hours before it was retrieved. Screw that. He could have killed my dog. I don't have kids. I don't have a girlfriend. I just have my dog, who is my best friend for the past 7 years. That dog moved with me 3 times, was there when I graduated college, and saw me buy my first house and my first new car. I love my dog. Went to legal advice to get some great help from them. Turns out him suing me was the best thing that could have ever happened. When we went to small claims court, the judge basically laughed away his claim that I intentionally trained my dog to attack his drone. But little did he know I was prepared. I had dozens of photos of my yard showing it was impossible for him to accidentally fly too low to my dog. Videos that showed him harassing my dog in the past, and I had saved all the medical bills from taking my dog to the vet. $700 for an x-ray? Check. Another $250 to sedate him during? Why not? Don't want him to be uncomfortable. Full dental exam with tooth cleaning/repair, $400. Then there was the cost of anti-anxiety medication and a secondary checkup with wet food for a week in case his teeth hurt, and a little extra, just for good measure. In the end, the asshole ended up owing me about $2,000, and now was being investigated by the Federal Aviation Administration for not having registered a drone and violating several FAA regulations concerning drone flight too near an airport, too close to other people, out of sight of the operator, and way above the maximum altitude. Enjoy never being allowed to fly a drone again, you dick. It always feels great when a bully gets put in their place for acting like a jerk, and this drone operator won't be able to own a drone again, and he owes the OP a whole bunch of money. And I can't say that the justice couldn't be any sweeter than that. Anyway, on to our next story. Our final story is by Disney Ho, entitled Mom Decides Her Son Will Share My Parents' Hotel Room. This is an old one. My family was out of town for a wedding. My parents hadn't had much time to themselves lately, so they were excited to spend a weekend together on their own. They bought a suite with a jacuzzi and everything. Now, my little cousin, second cousin specifically, is a handful. He throws temper tantrums when people don't pay him exclusive attention, when he doesn't get exactly what he wants. Note that he was 12 at the time and old enough to know better. His parents couldn't make it to the wedding, so they had his grandmother bring him on his own. At the end of the first night after the rehearsal dinner, he approached my parents and informed them that he would be sharing their room for the night. My parents were shocked because they had never discussed it with his parents. My mom spoke to his grandmother, who asked why he thought he was staying with them. She explained that he really wanted to stay in their room, and she and his parents thought it would be alright. My parents tried nicely to suggest to him to stay with his grandma instead, but he felt rejected and threw a tantrum. My parents eventually caved and let him stay with them for that night only. The hotel sent up a cot, but they told him that he had to stay with his grandmother for the second night. Again, he threw another tantrum. The next day, his parents called my mom, furious. They wanted to know why she had upset their little angel. She said that he just was so excited to spend time with them and that they were being so cruel to him. She demanded that he stay in their room the last night and that they apologize to him for hurting his feelings. My mom tried her best to calmly explain that she was just trying to enjoy her vacation and had not been asked to be responsible for him beforehand. But this lady was not having it, and my mom remained firm in her decision. His grandmother ended up taking him that night without making a big deal about it, but he ignored us for the rest of the vacation, and his parents were mad at us for some time before pretending that this situation never happened. Anyway, that's all the stories I have today. Please stop on by Reddit to show the OP some love and an upvote. Links to the original stories will be in the description box below. If you enjoy my content, please like and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to let you know when I've uploaded new content. Thank you for watching and have a great day.